You know, it's something of a somber mood down here. You know, Steve Jobs has led this company for quite a while, doing some really great things, both in a product-wise, but also, of course, employing lots of people around here. You know, we've been out here since before the sun came up, and as you watched Apple employees arrive to work, we're watching them sort of walk from building to building. The business has grown so much that they've got a really expansive campus around here. We see people with two things, blue jeans and MacBooks, walking back and forth all day. And one of the other things you notice is that the cars in the parking lot have been upgraded, not least of which because of the stock. What a perfect segue to the drill down. Because in the drill down, we look at the company story behind a stock on the move. The move in Apple stock since Steve Jobs returned for his second stint as CEO, initially interim CEO, even advisor to interim CEO to CEO, is an incredible one. Arguably the greatest business turnaround in the history of business. Stock up well over, I think, 6,000% in that time period. Now, when you look at what's happened from both a revenue and profit standpoint, you can't imagine a bigger change in a company. And what really is not a long period of time, 1996, the first full year before Steve Jobs returned to the company had $9.8 billion in revenues and yet lost a ton of money, lost $816 million. But if you look at what the company was just last year, again, only 14 years after Jobs' return, the company does over $62 billion in revenues and, more importantly, $14 billion in profit. This became a very big, very profitable business, doing things in some ways very differently than the rest of Silicon Valley, but also doing things that weren't that different. I mean, you know, they're selling computers in stores that they own. We've seen so many businesses disappear that try to do that, the likes of Gateway. We've seen companies like Hewlett-Packard and Compaq struggle mightily to do that. And the last thing I want to show you when we look at the numbers behind the Apple business is how different Apple is. I want to show you the profit margins, not just gross margins, but the profit margins for some of the largest computer makers out there. Apple, not one of the largest in terms of units, but pulling down some really impressive margins. When compared to the likes of Dell and Hewlett-Packard and Acer, it's not even comparable, bringing down double-digit margins of profits, selling these same kind of devices, but are so much more beloved and that such that consumers are willing to spend up, making this one of the most profitable technology companies in the history of business.